Hi guys, Neil at Italia Autos here. Welcome back to another video on my channel. Hopefully you're all doing well. Behind me I have an Abarth 695 XSR, which is a limited edition Abarth. I thought I'd do a video on the Abarth because I've got no other videos on the channel at the moment really about it. Even though I've owned two of them, I never bother doing any videos on them. What it's in for today is a cam belt and a service, so I thought I'd do a video on what goes into actually doing a service on one of these. They're not the easiest car to service because they are quite awkward to get onto the ramp, and they are a really tiny engine bay, so even just getting to the oil filter can be a bit of a pain, let alone draining the oil out. So let's start by getting it up in the air, giving it a quick check over, and then we can drain the oil out of it and start servicing it. Let's just start by talking about getting them on a ramp first. On a 4-post ramp, 2-post ramp, it can be quite awkward just purely for the fact that these side skirts get in the way. And if you don't put the jack in the right spot or at the right height, you're going to pull the side skirt off from where it's bonded along the side of the car. So you do have to be extremely careful when getting these things on the ramp. What I'm looking at now is the suspension. Now it's half up in the air. Because the ride on these is so hard, they do go through shockers, especially rear shockers, at quite an alarming rate. They're not expensive to replace and they're not difficult to be replaced. But you will see sort of weeping from the shocker, and that is all clear. Another common problem on these Abarths are top suspension mounts. So what I do is just give the shocker a good shake, and if I can feel any movement, it normally means that the top suspension mount is worn and has some play in it, but that is all good to go. Another thing to look out for are your brakes, because they are extremely expensive to replace on the front because they're drilled and vented. I think they're about £300 just for the discs alone. They're probably more than that now because it's been a while since I've actually searched for them. So yeah, do keep an eye on that. While it is in this position, I'm going to be checking the tyres. Going all around the tyre, making sure there's no nails, odd wear in the tyre, or lumps where it's hit a curb or anything like that. This rear disc looks as though it's recently picked up a stone or something in there. You can see that big scratch in it. And the tyre, a couple of stones in it. It's wearing nice and evenly. And onto the driver's rear. You see there's no massive scratch mark on the disc, so that's why I say it's picked up a stone or something. Rear tyre appears to be all good with plenty of tread left on it. And onto the front. Shocker itself, again, can't see any weeping on it. We've got some rust underneath it, but it doesn't look too bad. Tyre itself again. Is all okay. The brakes on the front, they aren't the flattest, so you may get some shake under heavy braking, but they're okay. They will live for another year. Now I'm just going to check the rear axle out now. Just going to check the rear shockers for any signs of weeping. It does look a little bit wet on that side, so I'm just going to rub my finger by it and see if any oily residue comes off. It is a little bit oily, so I think we've got the early signs of a rear shocker starting to leak here. Quick visual inspection on the exhaust now. Just looking for any leaks. All we've got there is just water dripping out of there, which creates sort of a carbon build-up as it goes down. That's nothing to worry about. Back box itself is in fine condition. It's an Abarth exhaust on the back of it. So we've got the fancy tailpipes on the back. So the condition of that is perfectly fine. Another regular issue on all the 500 and Abarth range, sort of 695, 595, rear subframes rust. As you can see, for a couple of year-old car, this one is starting to rust as well. So that would be worthwhile doing some protection on the rear subframe. The front discs are showing a lot more wear on the inner edge. As you can see, they're quite pitted, they're quite scored. So these discs, after looking at the back of them, I would say these are going to want changing quite shortly. And this side is almost as bad. Another thing I'm checking for before I take the under tray off is just any splits in any gaiters, any more leaking from the shockers anywhere, anything around the gearbox for leaks. And we're all good on this one. The front subframe is okay, no signs of major rust. So that was a quick look under the body of the car. So we found 2 things with the underside, 3 things possibly because of the rear subframe. What we want to do now is get this engine under tray off so we can drain the oil out. So now that the under tray's off, let's just do another visual inspection for oil leaks and any damage from any road humps or anything like that. No problems at all there. So let's get the oil out of this now and do the oil change. Just looking at the oil is still pretty clean. It's not black, so it has been changed regularly. While the oil is draining out now, I'm going to pull the car down now while that drains out. It is quite a slow drain, to be honest, so it does benefit from having sort of 20 minutes for it all to leak out. What I also do is I always buy genuine parts where possible when I service these cars. They're just better quality and they're not that much more expensive than buying aftermarket parts. So let's get this down now and get the oil filter off. Now the oil filter is hidden right the way under this pipe. There's no way you're going to get to it unless you take this pipe out, but you do have to be extremely careful with it because there are joints on it that can snap particularly easily. Is this rear one here, which you can't really see, but I'll show you when I take it off. So let's get this out now and be as delicate as possible with it. Always put the clips to one side because guaranteed you will drop on off. But yeah, as you can see, access is extremely tight and getting all these little clips off isn't easy at all. Now I've removed this one, the one down here and this one here. Lift that up out of the way. This one here, I am going to see if I can leave that on because there is quite a lot of play in that one, so I might just be able to just move it out of the way. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Just depends on how the pipe work's all been routed. So now I'm going to remove the top engine cover to give me a little bit more access. Just freeing off the connector here so I can get this engine cover out of the way. Again, being very delicate with it and making sure nothing's trapped or in the way. Like this here. Help the oil drain out a bit easier without the cap on. Right, so with that out of the way now, it just gives us that little bit more room to pull this pipe off here. Keeping hold of it, making sure nothing drops into the engine bay. And just remembering that we have got that one still attached there. So there we go, that is up out of the way now. All 4 of the clips will go to one side. And now we have access to the oil filter housing. The oil filter is a 27mm socket. I've also got a flexible head on there because it is at an awkward angle and you can't get straight into it. Now unfortunately, taking this oil filter off can make a mess, so it is a good job that you drain the oil out first, and it will leave a little less in the oil filter housing, but you will always get a drip of oil. So before I pull the oil filter out, I will just pop a rag down there. Pop one down there to mop up the oil if any comes out, and then one in my hand to try and stop any mess dripping onto the engine. And there we go, one used oil filter. Always just clean out the housing as well, just in case there's any issues in there, any debris or anything like that. Remove the old rubber seal. And the oil filter in. Just make sure that's seated in the right spot. And also make sure your oil filter's seated right, because it wasn't there. There we go. Let's get that down there and into position. Tighten up the oil filter, make sure you do it to spec and torque it up. There we go, all torqued up. Now the oil filter is all back on. Remember to pull your old rag out and just clean around where the oil filter was, just so you eliminate as much mess as possible. What I normally do now is pop all these back on, but I'm not doing that at the moment because I'm going to be doing the cam belt next, but I'm not going to be filming that. Next step is to clean out the air filter. Now excuse the messy workbench, but I haven't had time to do a thorough clean this week. Now there should be a BCM filter in here, BMC even, so it should just need cleaning out and not replacing. And it is. It's already really clean, you don't really have to do anything with that. I will just put an air line through it just to clean it out and make sure that's okay, and just brush away any of the dust from there. Okay, right, I've blown away the dust off camera. Let's pop that back in now. Make sure the underside's all clean as well. I'd like to think all the oil's drained out of it now, so I'm going to get it back up in the air, sump plug on, 2.9 litres of oil into it, and then the service is nearly done. We're down to a few minor drips now, so we can pop a new washer on the sump plug and pop that back in and then torque it up. And I've just torqued that up off camera. And I'm going to apologise now if everything was a bit glary on the earlier footage, because my lens wasn't clean enough, so hopefully it's not as glary for you now. So now on to the next step, which is putting some oil in. And now I'll use a funnel to put the oil back in. It's not the best fit, this one, unfortunately, but it stops us from making a ton of mess. So it's just under 3 litres that needs to go in there. Each one of these is 2 litres, so I need to put a full one of these in and just under half of the next one. Just check the oil and see where we are. What have I done with my rag? Wants a bit more in that. And there we go, oil level is now at the maximum. Let's pop that back in. The half a litre or litre I've got left, normally just pop that back on, clean it all up and give it the customer because he's paid for it. Now one of the final engine service jobs is to pull these coil packs off and change the spark plugs. So be quite careful when putting these coil pack connectors on because they can easily, you can easily bend something or break something. Test the brake fluid now. You see, it's okay at the moment, 1% water, so probably by next year it's going to want a brake fluid change. Coolant level is pretty much a bang on. So that the coolant's a little bit strong.
2 hours later.
Right, I have skipped the cam belt stage. That has already been done now. So the new water pump and cam belt and tensioner. I do still need to top up the water from when I've done the water pump. But now I am going to put all this back together. So let's just try and remember which sides go where. I do believe this is for this one here. One last screw to do. Just going to get the engine run up to temperature off camera now, and then we can do the last few bits on the service. And there you go, that is everything done on the service. There are a few parts which I have done off camera, like the service light reset and the pollen filter and a few other bits and bobs. If you want to see more videos done on Abarth, get your car booked in and we'll get some more tutorials and videos done on Abarth. I would like to feature them more on the channel because I am rather a fan. So thank you guys for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.